Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Handegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Handegriff, Jimmy Ott, and Jordan Kitchens back in the studio. Wednesdays, talk to Randy McKay, professional sports handicapper. Scott Rabelais from The Advocate, and Wes Reynolds from VEASAN. Glad to have you with us here on a gorgeous day in the capital city. And LSU and A&M. Jimmy, good morning. I'm sorry.
Good morning, Charlie. That's okay.
Jump
all right.
Jump right in.
You don't have to spend me any extra attention. I'm not high maintenance, Charlie.
What?
Now it comes to radio camaraderie. Okay. Now when it comes to some things, I could be a little needy.
What's that? That very nice looking cup, that very nice looking beverage, that coffee cup.
It's a cappuccino.
Yeah, that looks really good.
I start every day, and you kind of get the brunt of it, because it kind of amps me up a little bit, So
I knew it was something.
But no, they do a great cappuccino over here at Roca, man. I look forward to this every month, so I don't have to go to the local drive-through. So. I
may try one of those before the show's
good
over.
After the show. I don't want you
you
on
don't
guard
want,
too much.
Don't
I like you just the way you are, boy.
Wow, that's the nicest thing. That's the nicest thing anybody said to me all day. That's pretty good. All right, so I got two questions for you.
The yin and yang. We're the yin and yang.
Yin and yang. Yin and yang. I got two questions for you about Texas A&M. I want to get your take on these two things. There's two areas that they've been a little bit volatile, and I think they'll both play a big part in this ball game. One of them's a quarterback, the other one's a run defense. So let's start with the quarterback. We both watched in really kind of, I don't want to say amazement, but certainly surprise when Connor Wegman went out to start the Missouri game, given the success that Marcel Reed had in the games prior to that. Wegman had his
team success.
Correct.
Reed didn't really like, but it was after losing a game, they won the games, and he was,
yes.
I mean, it was very similar to a Justin Fields, Russell Wilson deal.
Very similar, yeah.
Very
team
similar.
Success, but to take it to the next level, you need the other guy.
Same surprise to me. Maybe I would start with him, but also knowing that Wegman gives them the higher ceiling. Wegman you can run your passing game at a higher level through with him than the other kid. Wilson, you can run your passing game at a higher level. It's not necessarily going to happen, but it can if both the quarterbacks are performing at their average level.
So what can we expect out of Wegman? His first game against Notre Dame, he was bad. Okay. He threw 2 interceptions in that game. He averaged 3 yards an attempt. He threw for 100 yards. They lost the game. Notre Dame piled up a big rushing total. We'll get to that in a minute. So he played poorly in that game. There's no way around it. Throw the McNeese game out.
All right. First week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not even first week.
Okay.
First coaching staff,
the
whole thing. We cannot overreact. We have to acknowledge it, but, I mean,
okay.
I
want to give you
I don't want to throw it out.
Right.
But I repeat myself for a reason every year. We have to discount it some.
Okay. And I think that's
fair.
That's fair. We're going to throw the McNeese game out, and then the Missouri game, which he was at his best. He only had 4 incompletions. The ball barely hit the ground. 12.5 yards on attempt.
Yeah, 18 for 22.
He didn't throw a touchdown or an interception in that game, but they got
276 on 22 attempts, Charlie.
They got out. No, he was magnificent that day.
Wow.
You and I watched the whole game together. They blew him out. He was great from start to finish. Okay. Then the Mississippi State game where it looked like a pretty uneven. Aggies won the game by 10. They never ran away and hid with this thing. They were up. At the most, they were up was 11 points in this game. I'm sorry, 14-point lead near the end of the third quarter.
Mississippi State was in the game.
They were in the game the whole way. So none of this would be what you would call garbage time. 15 to 25, a touchdown and 2 picks, 8.5 yards, a little over 8.5 yards an attempt. That number's okay, but I'm looking at the 2 games that they didn't run away with, the 2 games that were competitive, the 2 10-point games against quality competition. He's thrown 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. How good is he? I don't know. We've seen flashes against. He looked as composed and confident against Missouri as I've ever seen him.
Missouri was ranked number 9 in the country
At the time,
Where was Mississippi State ranked?
They're not ranked at all.
Okay, well, I understand. Where's LSU in the standings, conference standings?
They are in second place.
Oh, they're undefeated.
Yeah, A&M's got them by half a game.
How's Mississippi State doing in there?
They're last, I would imagine.
You think he might be a little bit more keyed in for these games?
Keyed in. I think the
whole team.
He and the team will be definitely more keyed in. He's also the level of competition is a lot better too.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, but and sometime, but man, this was a look ahead spot. Now, with LSU's win over Ole Miss, it got more people's attention. Don't you think the A&M people saw? The A&M players saw that a little bit. They've seen State and State's improved, no doubt.
They're scrappy.
They played it. Then nobody played a string like that. That's as tough of a string we talk about in Austin, in Athens, and then against Texas A&M. Man, that's a hell of a 3-game stretch. And they're improving. They covered all 3 of them easily, by the way. Not even a sweat. But their point spread value was driven so low when they got drilled at home by Toledo.
Yeah, they're getting 30 points in Austin.
When they lose 37-7,
right.
At home, but they're playing respectable football, and it's a first-year coach. It's a first-year offensive coach. It's a team that's playing a freshman quarterback. They're on the improve. They're at least being respectable instead of this team that's getting drilled by 30 at home to a MAC team.
They're scrappy. They compete.
It was a competitive game.
It's a competitive game.
It was a competitive game. But Charlie, this is college football. You don't know. This is the great thing about it. We try and quantify, we try and predict, and we try and do this. You tell him, I don't know how Connor Wegman's going to play Saturday.
Well, neither do I. That's why I was asking you.
But that's the beauty of it.
Right.
It's funny. It's funny the thing of, in youth sports, which I just got out of, okay? You just don't know. You don't know what these kids are going to show. And that's the fun part of it. As you get to more professional, it is more predictable. It is more. Nussmeier, has he not had better days than others? I think he's been a little bit more consistent than most, huh? He hadn't really had a bad game. He has had some bad plays.
Yeah.
They're just throwing into coverage against Ole Miss. Like, who are you throwing to? Right?
By his admission, his worst game was the Ole Miss game where he makes the 2 plays to win the game.
I know what he said, but what he says there, but it's plays. And Kelly's talking about growth. Like, man, yeah, he went through that, and he still, when the game's on the line, made his best throw of the night and pressure situation. So he's got that part. I told you before the season I loved him, but still he's not perfect. Is he not immune to make one of those Ole Miss throws on Saturday night?
Absolutely not. He made a couple in the game against Arkansas. He got away with a couple. That he threw into coverage.
So okay, Carson Beck. Man, what do you know what you're getting from series to series with him? How about Jalen Milroe? How about Dart? Huh? This is college football.
I like the LSU quarterback better than the A&M quarterback. I think that there's a lot more variance in how the A&M quarterback's going to play than the LSU quarterback.
Oh, you're asking me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let me get to the rush defense because I think this number is skewed too. The rush defense for A&M shows 11th in the league. When you take that into conference games.
Wait, who's what?
The A&M rush defense.
They're pretty good up front.
The LSU rush game is improving. I wanted to see what they can do against this group. Overall, all games, A&M is 11th in rush defense. But you go to conference games only, they're number 1. So I want to go back and look at the non-conference games and see why this number is skewed. Notre Dame ran for nearly 200 yards on them in the first game, okay? First game and all that stuff. McNeese,
Yeah, but defensive, you can have concerns defensively on the first game. We're not going to overreact to offensive struggles.
McNeese, despite being down 38 points at the half, continued to run the ball in the second half in garbage time, so that skews the number a little bit.
Yeah.
The Bowling Green game is pretty much a wash. They were balanced. That game was competitive. A&M won it by a touchdown.
No, there ain't no garbage time there.
There's no garbage time, but Bowling Green didn't put up a big rush number. They rushed the ball for 90 yards, so that doesn't skew the
not
number.
Not expected to.
No. The games against Florida, Arkansas, Missouri, and Mississippi State, they're hardly giving up anything. They're giving up less than 90 yards a game on the ground. And all of those games have been Missouri got out of hand, but all of those games have been SEC games that were, competitive. So, how good are they up front defensively?
Very.
That's what I think, too.
And LSU's kind of their slow developing rushing game is getting better, but it is nothing where that's going to win LSU's game. It's Nussmeier.
Right.
It's Nussmeier.
The rush game has to be enough to take some of the pressure off of him, give them, and I'm not going to say balance. I'm just going to say a little bit of
Mississippi State rushed for 125. That ain't bad.
If LSU rushes for 125, I'll feel great.
LSU be in good shape.
I'll feel great if they rush for that.
Yeah. If they rush for 125, but how fired up was that front seven? We don't know. Arkansas rushed for 100.
Yeah. That's what they are. They're just under 100 for the conference games. And that's kind of, if you ask me, that's kind of 90, 100, 110. That's where LSU's going to be. LSU's rushing average in SEC games, 3 of them so far, is exactly 125 yards. That's what you're shooting for, I would say.
And against Ole Miss, who's a comparable front.
Yeah. South Carolina, who's got a really good front.
More pass for us, but yeah, okay.
Arkansas, that's your 3
Not
games.
as good. Not as good as
125 yards average against those 3.
At night, they'll be jacked up. 90 to 100. I'm almost willing. I would take that right now in the 90s.
The average of 125 would be a high watermark.
It's funny you've done this to Paul. As I'm trying to break down this game through my mind, it's going to be on Nussmeier. To make plays in the passing game, to move the ball. Because although the LSU game is improved to be respectable, it's not a strength where you're going to go in there. It's just going to be hard to go in there and push them around.
It can't be non-existent. It has to be. It has to be a part of this. But no, I agree. Nussmeier's got to win. Got to have a big game.
Well, offensively, look, man, Kelly knows. He understands the importance of balance. And, when people go, oh, my God, why do you call that play or something? Well, no, because you just can't throw the ball every time. And, you got to get a little bit. And if you can, and it's also how much is your offensive line improved in their running game? It's improved, but it's not ready to push around this team on this stage in this building. I don't think. Man, how good would they be up front if they had your boy from Ole Miss?
Walton Nolan, yeah.
Jeez. And look, when we talked about it, we said, well, they hired the Duke coach. Well, he doesn't have a national championship. Okay, that's fine. That's a resume. That's a resume builder. But, how can he help? Well, and I've told you that this guy's respected within the coaching community. Very respected. And they're respected for being physically tough up front. And they're going to a little bit of a not as celebrated, but a little bit of a Harbaugh type of mentality and commitment to the physicality of the game. And that's what you're seeing. And they're kind of building on that first, and they're asking Wegman, second. Wegman in that game, and they went up and down the field. How many attempts?
22.
That ain't a whole lot.
No,
they're doing it up front.
They seized control, and of course, Mike.
He's a line of scrimmage coach.
Yeah, Mike Elko is somebody that Brian Kelly knows very well. He coached for the guy at Notre Dame. So, A&M giving up 239 yards a game through in conference games. LSU's passing game is very, very versatile at this point. You've got 4 different guys that are averaging 5 catches a game. Right at 5 catches a game, and that's before you get to Trey Green, who is now inserted into this thing as a matchup problem, or Xavier Thomas, who is also been kind of a speed sweep kind of guy that you can throw that wrinkle in there. So the passing game is pretty diverse, and as Kelly pointed out on Monday, it's not a lot of check downs, it's not a lot of swing passes, bubble passes, things like that. They are going through progressions, they are going down the field. So I agree. That's how LSU's got to win it.
Throws underneath. To the wide outs, a lot of curls, a lot of slants.
But those are things that he gets to after he goes through his progressions. You don't see them with a lot of little swing passes.
No, it's not a horizontal game.
Screen. No, not at all.
No, it's a diverse passing game.
That's what
he throws and he's capable. He's got an arm where he can make all those throws of all the 6 quadrants in the passing area. And so it's diverse. I mean, it's diverse in where he throws the ball, where he's dangerous in throwing the ball as well, and then also to the diversity of the receivers. He's got a number of different receivers, and the emergence of Green adds another dimension for sure.
He's not dependent on any one guy.
Man, look, when you get down to the 12-yard line, you think you're going to blow them off the ball and hand the ball off and get it in the end zone, or are you going to find a matchup with Trey Dez?
I'd rather find who's guarding the 6'7" guy. That's what I want to know.
We're live over here at Roca Pizzeria, and it's not just for pizza, man. They do a lot of great stuff over here. Now, the Neapolitan pizza, it's our favorite. I mean, you can eat a few slices of pizza, and you will not feel like you're overdone. Sort of a thin crust, but man, it is absolutely delicious. We do pastas, we do different sandwiches, and the chicken cutlet sandwiches off the chart. Over here, breaded chicken cutlets, salsa verde, mozzarella, sweet piquillo peppers, arugula, aioli, sesame hoagie. You talk about unbelievable. We also do a different, like I said, our salumi trays are outstanding. Salads, different appetizers from the garlic knots that are very, very, to the Roca meatballs, the baked goat cheese, the Brussels sprouts, the salumi boards, mushrooms, you name it. But you know what, Charlie? Thanksgiving is coming.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's going to be here. So are you going to wait like me and try and scramble? Just find somebody that's still taking orders, or are you going to get it done early? It's coming. It's going to be here. Lock of the week. Thanksgiving's going to be here.
4th Thursday every November.
Yes, indeed. So do Thanksgiving with Roca, okay? So you can do the bundles, Roca's holiday table with the whole smoked turkey, gravy, 6 classic sides, pecan pie. That serves 8 to 10 turkey and pecan pie options. You could do the turkey by itself, the smoked turkey breasts, the turkey gravy, and the different sides like cornbread dressing, sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, potato au gratin, cranberry chutney, herb focaccia, and the Goody Company pecan pie. And we do how about this? Black Friday eats as well. Smoked brisket, Brussels sprouts, mac and cheese, the Roca meatballs, or the spinach dip as well. So make plans to do it. Choose the complete bundle or select individual items. Ready to heat and serve in under 2 hours. You can order now through November 22nd, which is what's the day for?
4th Thursday.
I got that.
What day of
I got that.
the month is
Le'Veon,
it?
boss. Come on.
Let's see, November.
Le'Veon,
28th. Is Thanksgiving.
All right, so you got 6 days in advance, so because we got to know how many turkeys, got to know all this, got to know all that. So order now through November 22nd. You can pick up on the 27th. That's Thanksgiving with Roca this year.
Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
The Pierrepont store and the Thibodeau store. If you are doing some home improvements, you're getting some things done, just want to get a little bit of help because we're not experts on these things all the time. You can pick up pretty much whatever you need. And right now at the Pierrepont store, They are celebrating their 113th anniversary, man. If you've been doing this for as long as they have, you need to come celebrate with them this Saturday coming up. They've got demos from 11 until 2. Community Coffee will be out there, Ryan's Cajun Pantry, Uncle Larry's, Landry's Vineyard, Prime Shrimp, Gator World. Activities, they'll have face painting for the kids, characters out there. They're giving out pretty much giving out 50-cent hot dogs while supplies last. They got a great raffle going on this week. They're going to give away a 5-gallon jambalaya pot. They're going to go with the roll-around combo, gift baskets from a number of different outlets in the Pierreport area. So, and free bread to the first 113 customers at the Pierreport store. So come celebrate with them this Saturday, the 26th of October. The Pierreport store and at 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux, the Thibodaux store.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com. New Hannycast dropped on Monday night. Film study from the LSU and Arkansas game with Richard Dixon. Check that out right now on YouTube. Subscribe and like under Hannycast. I had the sad news last night that Fernando Valenzuela passed away at the age of 63. Jimmy, you and I both watched a ton of baseball growing up. I'm not quite old enough to remember Mark the Bird Fidrich as far as these phenoms that came in.
I do. Monday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen all of the films, but I wasn't watching it live.
And when I say Monday Night Baseball, it was you had a Saturday afternoon NBC with Tony Kubek and Joe Garagiola,
Yep.
the game of the week, and then you had a Monday night game, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And so you were glued in. And he was just theatrical. He was having it was phenomenal.
So until the superstations, those were what we had, and we saw later Hideo Nomo and Ichiro, and now obviously Shohei as being these phenoms that everybody wants to see, and we got a little bit of this with Paul Skeens this year. Hey man, when's that guy pitching? Because I want to watch. None of it compares to Fernando Mania. In 1981, and he had been called up the year before. He almost pitched. He almost started the playoff game with Houston. He was on one-day short rest, so they didn't run him. He started the opening day of 1981, which was a strike year. And I've never seen another baseball player who was as beloved, who was as much of an appointment viewing for a baseball player as Fernando Valenzuela was in Southern California in 1981. And even with the strike-shortened season, he won the Cy Young and the Rookie of the Year in the same year, which has never been done before or
Think
since.
about Skeens.
Skeens.
This is the guy we brought up, which Skeens
that's right.
was having this year. And Skeens is probably going to finish third in Cy Young, and that's unbelievable.
That's an unreal thing.
Yeah.
Valenzuela won them both. They won the World Series that year against the Yankees, who had beaten them 2 times in the previous 5 years, and how ironic that we're getting Yankees and Dodgers for the first time since then. He threw a screwball, which I've never seen any other pitcher master the screwball like Valenzuela did. You know, when the cutter came into vogue and everybody tried to copy Rivera, a lot of guys did. Like Roy Halladay had a tremendous cutter, and that's a pitch now that I don't know 2/3 of the league throws. Nobody threw the screwball like Valenzuela did.
It's very hard to throw.
That's what it's an impossible pitch to throw.
Your natural position, you know, like your slider, you hold it on the side and you cut down, you make that breaking motion, and it dives.
Yeah.
You know, your right-hander goes, from your right to left, and a lefty, it was more slider heavy, left to right, and it just goes the other way. And to have the command of that pitch is so uncommon that hitters don't see it. And he not just – and what do we talk about with every pitcher too? You know, movement. Everybody's got stuff. Yeah. I mean, velocity. Everybody's got velocity. And more. But what kind of movement do you have? And the movement was unbelievable. Charlie, I mean, 81, man, I was 14 years old, and we had some land in the backyard or kind of backfield. And I'd get on the hammock, man, and listen to the Astros. And the Astros in NL West. And they were. And that Valenzuela stuff was – I mean, even when they're not doing, they're like, yeah, the Dodgers, Fernando Valenzuela is doing it again. It was Skeens times a little bit because they let him go so much deeper in the games.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. The number of complete games that from his first 5 years in the league, he averaged 13 complete games a season.
How many did he have that first year?
Well, let's see. It was a shorter season because of the strike.
What percentage of his starts?
About 75% of it.
75% of his starts he went to complete game?
Yeah, I think it
I didn't think it was that much.
I'll get you the exact number in a second. But that screwball, if you throw it now, if you tried to throw that pitch now, probably every coach would tell you to stop throwing it because of the torque that it puts on your arm, on your elbow. They would probably.
I mean, we play wiffle ball. Do it. It's you practice it, you can do it, but you appreciate. You know what it does, man. It's hard to throw, man.
But it was 75% in another year. In '81, it was 11 complete games in 25 starts. So almost half. Almost half.
I mean,
in his career, he threw 113 complete games.
I wonder how many of his starts did they win?
He was 13-7 of the 25 starts.
He's 13-7. They beat him 7 times.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember that.
The ERA was 2.48, so there had to be some tough.
Skeens got him beat on that.
They had some tough losses.
Even with the Pirates,
he led the league.
He didn't have the top. Skeens didn't have the Dodgers, the '81 Dodgers lineup with him this year.
8 complete game shutouts. 191 innings. He led the league in innings pitched and strikeouts that year. Shortened season, but still.
Shortened season, he had 13 complete games.
Yeah, and 113 for his
Keep him
career.
on, Charlie. So the Dodgers in that era, too, were one of the few teams that had the resources to have so many scouts in Mexico and in Latin America.
Yes.
And so, of course, the proximity of L.A. Now, it's not like it is now with the Hispanic culture of Los Angeles, but still, that's L.A.'s team. Mexico's team.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So he's a Mexican guy. The other thing is, he's very common for Latin. With the older you are as a baseball prospect, the less your value is as a prospect. So the Fords, who knows if he was 20, 21? They say he died at 61, 62.
63.
63. I'm not so sure. I want validity on that.
Yeah.
I'm not. My money's on. He's a little bit older, but he didn't look 21 when he was pitching that year, Charlie.
No,
in 1981,
he didn't. And they discovered him looking at another player. They sent one of their Hall of Fame scouts,
Brewster Jones, Hugh Green,
down there, and they found him. He threw a no-hitter before he left his last year with the Dodgers in 1990.
That was I remember. That was a
same night as Dave Stewart.
Correct. It was an ESPN doubleheader. Mm-hmm. Dave Stewart for Toronto threw the no-hitter in an early game, and he threw the no-hitter against St. Louis, I believe. On the
that's right.
Game.
Yeah, and that was the final team he played. He kind of bounced around a little bit when the Dodgers released him, and then he came back to the team as their Spanish broadcaster, and he's been there with that gig for the last 20 years. And we saw the picture of him when they announced that he was stepping back for health reasons, and he you could tell it was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with Fernando. And they didn't give a cause of death, don't need to. But man, one of the iconic players.
Did he
in
history. Did he strike out the side? Was the no hitter in 90 a complete game?
Yeah, he walked 3 and struck out 7 in the game.
Did he strike out the side? Like
he did it.
Something.
I don't remember.
Did he have like a behind the back? I don't know, a stop. He was just.
Something I don't remember exactly what it was, but one of the all-time iconic characters and players.
All right, we got to go to timeout. Live at lunch, live at Roca. Be back with Randy McKay after this.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, let's go out to the mountains. Talk to Big Dog Randy McKay as we do each and every week. The most respected NFL handicapper in the land. How you doing, Randy?
I'm doing real well. How are you guys doing? LSU making things pretty exciting for you guys down there. Big game in College Station.
Yeah. What's your thoughts? Give us the outside perspective on LSU. Similar paths for LSU and A&M. Opening week loss, high profile game, but they've kind of come on as of since. Who would have thought at that point that they'd be the only undefeated teams in conference play?
Yeah, I definitely. It's a tough travel into College Station there, but I could see the Tigers having a pretty good day on Saturday and getting the win for you guys and keep it going and getting them college playoffs.
All right. So the in the NFL last week, Panthers. Boy, you see that line really adjust with Denver. Got to thank you. And I kind of stood pat with did middle because I like the schedule. And my goodness, the team that there's a JV that might have been the middle school team that the Saints put out there last Thursday night. So Denver could play that game 100 times. They're going to win it 100 times. Just hand the ball off. I mean, Randy, me, you, Charlie, Mac, all of us could have quarterbacked the Broncos to a win in that matchup on Thursday night. So looking good with my over with the Broncos right there. But Monday night's game with it certainly took its effect. Tampa Bay had a touchdown call back, would have been up 14-0. Then they start getting. Then they have the drop in the injury for Evans, Godwin at the end, but a lot of people making a case for Baltimore to be the best team. Are they the best team in the regular season? Is Detroit as good, if not better? It is still Kansas City the team to beat because, well, frankly, Kansas City's got maybe the best defense in all of football.
Yeah, definitely Kansas City number one, and the other two you mentioned, Baltimore, Detroit, probably 2 and 3. Very close game there with the Vikings. Detroit could have won either way. That was a good game. And then, Baltimore seems like they like to get. They got behind, actually, where it was rare for them. Usually they get leads and have the other team come back. But still a little worried about their defense overall. And now with Humphrey a little banged up here, could be an upset special going into Cleveland here with Jameis at the helm. So maybe look to the Browns here, ugly dog pick of the week. But a little worried about Baltimore's defense in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Tampa Bay, when they were healthy, they went up and down the field on them. Hey, what about? And I asked that to Andy Isco yesterday. I guess I'll let you expound upon it. But are the Browns the team to back now? Now that Watson, who was performing so poorly, probably of the 32 regular starters, the weakest of the group, and that's a strong statement. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get out of Jameis Winston. Everybody loves him, but nobody plays him, huh, Charlie? So yeah. one of those guys. But man, maybe a little life with the Browns now that sort of that Watson has moved on.
Yeah, and this game opened 10. So. But, with Jameis, the last, full season he played, he was the 30 for 30 guy. 30, touchdown, 30 interceptions, which probably will never be done again. Which, you get high variance with him. But, they're right in that game last week. It wasn't for the opening kickoff there and a couple really dumb, they're one of these teams that, these lower-ranked teams, they find ways to lose games more than they do to win them. They're making their team mistakes and key penalties all the time. And, frustrating if you back them, even last week's. But, I think they could be live this week against the Browns. They're getting some of their offensive line back. You saw Chubb run the ball a little bit last week. And, Humphrey out and a couple other defenders out for Baltimore. They could maybe control the ball here. If James is smart with the ball, they could definitely get the cover and maybe even knock some people out of Survivor.
Is that one of your picks this week?
Yeah, that's one of my picks. I got them at +10. I think it's fine at +9. I might even go back. So, ugly dog special of the week, Cleveland Browns. Their defense is still playing, pretty well, at home. So, we got the Cleveland Browns ugly dog special of the week.
Okay, well, how do you look at this Falcons-Buccaneers now? Falcons big favorites to win the division now. Evan's going to be out for a while, at least till their bye week in a few weeks. But they got all kinds of injuries now with the Falcons. Boy, they got whooped on Sunday to Seattle, and man, we know that they don't have the best roster. But when Cousins plays poorly and turns the ball over, they're really going to have a hard time winning.
Yeah, I'm just not sold on this Atlanta team. I think even with the two wide receivers out with Tampa Bay, that they could give this team, Atlanta team, a little trouble here at home. It could be a motivation-style win, and I think they can control the ball maybe with their running game a little bit and, make this game close. So I see this as a little overreaction spot, probably pretty good teaser spot here with Tampa Bay taking it up to 8.5 at home. So I definitely look that way. You could pair them. There's other teams you can pair them with. Philadelphia looks like a pretty good spot, plus 8.5. Or Washington, even if Daniels doesn't play it. You're in pretty good hands, I think, with Marcus Mariota. So that's how I'd look at betting that game. Tampa Bay would be tease them up to the 8.5 range.
So you're looking at a Washington-Tampa Bay teaser?
Yeah, or Philadelphia. That's another one against Cincinnati would be pretty good as well.
Philadelphia against Cincinnati. So, yeah, that would tease it up from 2.5 to 8.5. How do you see that game? Bengals got one of their defensive backs back and a couple of wins in a row here. We know that Burrow's going to be fine, but that defense was so bad and banged up to start the season.
Yeah, I can't see Cincinnati winning by more than margin here. So, of course, I'd like the points here with Philadelphia. Philadelphia could have trouble with the two wide receivers, Higgins and Chase. Their D-backs aren't very good. And that's where you can exploit Philadelphia's defense. The Giants couldn't do that last week. He pretty much had no time to throw. I think he got sacked like 8 times, Daniel Jones. Philadelphia does have a pretty strong defensive line, but Cincinnati will be a different animal as far as matching with that offensive line and could give Philly some trouble. But I don't think they can win by more than 8.5 here. So that's how I'd play that game. If it gets to +3, I'll probably be on the Eagles.
Randy, what about tomorrow night's game with Minnesota at Los Angeles? Minnesota gets their first loss of the season. It wasn't. It's a hell of a game. Really, really good game. Detroit. It was just a well-played game. And I thought that, Detroit, man, just when they get going on offense, especially that they have the best offensive line and they run it first. And Goff, they got weapons everywhere. They're such a complete offense. They're really brutal to stop.
Yeah, Dan Campbell from Applebee's, he tried to make that move early and got his teeth down a little bit there, but they came back and they're looking dominant, and then Montgomery made a weird turnover, and then the Vikings, for some reason, I don't know why O'Connell didn't go for it late in the game. I think it was like 4th and 3 rather than putting the ball to Detroit. Analytics said to go for it, and I thought he should have went for the win there. But, it kind of hurt. But this was a tough scheduling spot for Minnesota. This is actually one of my plays. L.A. Rams took it early 3.5 or +3 is fine. There's still a few 3 and juice out there, so definitely look at your sports book. Very tough scheduling spot for Minnesota coming off the division rival. The Rams are getting more healthy. And then teams after they play Detroit are usually beat up, and then a short week combined. Not a very good spot here. So, this game was basically the same as the Green Bay line a few weeks ago when Green Bay was getting 3.5 against a less healthy L.A. Ram team. So I favor the L.A. Rams here in a short week.
All right, Rams +3 tomorrow. Cooper Kupp expected to play. Not what, Charlie?
No, he's going to play. On a trade block. I was wondering about Tampa looking for a receiver. Might fit Kansas City, fill their need earlier today.
All right, who else you got this week, Randy? One more pick.
Yeah, probably another ugly dog here. I see there's a light 7 out there with the New York Giants against a Steeler team that I ended up playing late. There were some late 3s. I ended up taking them against the Cowboys. But like the Giants here, especially up to that 7 mark, better road team than home team. And I think they'll adjust a little bit, against the Steeler defense. And I can't see the Steelers playing a better game than they played last, especially the second half last week. And, Russell Wilson was a little bit of a spark plug, but I think I can see this game being, the total represents that too, being a low-scoring game. The Giants, covering the +7 there.
Well, they're only 4-32, the New York teams, straight up. But doing much better against the spread, huh? The last 20, 1-19, Charlie. Keep rolling them out on prime time.
Jones has got a chance to throw a touchdown pass because it's on the road. He hadn't thrown one at home in 2 years.
But man, what are you gonna do there? Hey, what would you do? And I think this thing might be hinting, at least the line movement from 3 to 1.5. That Daniels may give it a go. Watching him closely on the bench, he was not in a whole lot of pain. A rib injury is more pain tolerance, and he looked like he was fine on Sunday. So I can understand. I mean, why in that game would you roll him out there? And hopefully it could be a pretty Charlie, probably a not so expensive lesson to learn how to slide and get down instead of that awkward, whatever he does, just fall, which led to his injury. But this is more of a pain tolerance thing, and he was not in any pain on the sideline on Sunday.
I think they got the message across to him as far as sliding. He seems to have accepted it. Now it's just about the execution.
Yes,
knowing how and when to get down. He's not reluctant to it, so that's something.
Yeah, he got down. He's just still not. It's not sliding. Even Bob Mahoney was telling us at Bo Revice, like, man, that didn't look. It didn't look smooth.
Look, this is a marquee game for him because it's against Caleb Williams. You know how bad he wants to play, how hard he's going to be lobbying to play, and you got to know Washington wants him in there. These are the top 2 players that can't win in the last draft. They want that matchup.
And Randy, don't you think? The Bears. Okay, they look better, but damn, who did they play the last 2 games? Jacksonville and Carolina. I think, Big Dog. I think you can throw for 275 at 3 scores against them.
And like I said before, I think there's definitely value here getting this with a plus numbers. So, even if it's Mariota some of the time in there, I'm not really worried about him. He's a pretty capable, but one of the better, more capable backups. But I think there's value here on the Washington team with the spread being an underdog. So, I lean towards the home dog there.
One more thing. Would you stick with? I got plus 290 for Washington to win the division. I can get plus 115 right now at Philadelphia. So with the games that they have this week, it fluctuates week to week. Would you hold tight?
Yeah, I'd probably still hold tight, I think, on that one, because I think I can see Washington winning this game. Philadelphia could go either way. So I would hold tight with a plus 290.
Do you fear Dallas at all? Are we kind of...
Well, we're looking at maybe betting that game if we got to +6, but of course it opened up 4.5 now, and haven't bet that yet. That could be
no, but I'm talking about Dallas to win the division. Dallas to win the division. Overall,
I would not fear Dallas at all.
Okay. There we go. All right, man. You bet any Frozen Frenzy last night?
I had a little bet on the Vegas Golden Knights late, and that was more of a bet on the game I was watching. I was surprised they were so low, but good night of hockey. Started off with a good fight there. If you could watch the Washington and Philly game, that good old hockey fight to start the frenzy out, and good to have the NHL back. I know it's big in your guys' parts.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Randy. Good stuff. Follow Randy on Twitter at RR39. Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds at Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060. Full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional services, which you get every time you call 296-0060. Buying, building, or refinancing, nobody chooses but you. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title, 296-0060. Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Number of transactions going on in the NFL right now. Devin White found a new home today with the Houston Texans. He had signed with Philadelphia in the offseason, never played a game for him, and they cut him after the fifth game per his request. He's only 26 years old, a former Pro Bowl guy who's on the all-rookie team. And for some reason, whatever, his career just hit a wall in Tampa, went to Philadelphia. That didn't work out, so he's going to try and get it going with the Texans. We'll see if that works out for him. Kind of a surprise.
What would happen?
I don't know.
I don't fall off the face of the earth.
I don't have a good explanation for it. I know he had a groin injury that had kind of lingered for a little bit, but he was playing. For Philadelphia to sign him to a one-year, $4 million contract and then have him inactive for 4 games was bizarre, because he wasn't injured this year. The groin injury was from
play alongside Christian Harris, local product.
Yeah, I don't get if they liked him enough to sign him in the spring and then just not play him, something happened.
I'll never forget that Kansas City Tampa Bay Super Bowl, man. The Fox crew, Tony Gonzalez, and like, man, Devin White.
Yeah.
He had a game that day.
He was a terrific player early in his career. We'll see if he can rekindle it. Again, only 26 years old. By the way, Jaden Daniels not practicing today with Washington, but that does not mean he cannot play on Sunday. Take a break. Live at lunch, Roca Pizzeria, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Here at Roca Government Street, live at lunch hour number 2. Thanks for being with us today. We bring in our friend Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. Rab, good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, I'm always well when I'm on with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time every week. LSU may have gotten away with one against Ole Miss. Maybe that's a game if they replayed exactly like that. Another 10 times LSU only wins a couple. Or getting behind by 17 at South Carolina. Certainly not the way you want to go and have to fend off a last-second field goal. But is there something to the idea that you learn how to win even when things aren't going your way? You learn a little bit of resiliency. You learn a little bit of toughness. And then all of a sudden, man, you get away with a couple, then you learn how to win, and then you start playing well. This was their most complete game of the season up at Fayetteville. What did they look like to you?
I think you're right. Obviously, offensive penalties were a problem. False starts and just penalties along the offensive line. And that short-circuited some drives. But even then, Damian Ramos was able to convert the field goals, and then they finally started punching in those touchdowns when they got the opportunities to present to them. They did, especially after the week's tipped interception. And look, I'm sure y'all said it. Everybody said this is a classic trap game for LSU. They had this emotional game with Ole Miss, and then playing Arkansas on the road. It's like it was when they played them the week after playing Alabama. It's been a 3-point game the last 4 years, good or bad Arkansas teams against LSU. That's what it's been. And then, and they showed that they could win a game. They just beaten a top 10 opponent in Tennessee their last game out. So all those things, and going on the road in the SEC, it was a good crowd. It's pretty full. Arkansas is not as loud as Tiger Stadium, but it's a good crowd. And calling the Hogs can be unnerving. But they handled their business, and it was a very, mature, just honestly, business-like. It's not the NFL, but I mean, there's a lot of veterans on this team, and they've been on the road to some tough places by now. Even if they didn't play a lot before, like Garrett Nussmeier, they've been there and been in those environments. And it was an impressive win for a lot of reasons. Is Arkansas one of the best teams in the SEC? No, they're pretty middle of the pack. They're certainly better than I think we all thought they would be. But they were dangerous enough, as they showed against Tennessee, to beat LSU. So a very good win. And yes, I agree with you, Charlie. You learn from the USC game. You learn from coming back at South Carolina. You learn from the Ole Miss game, which obviously could have gone either way. I mean, you could have had a couple of fourth downs. On that last drive to send it to overtime, obviously could have gone either way. So, and now you're in a position that no one expected you to be in going to the last Saturday of October.
Just it takes a little luck, man. Have a special season.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a little luck. And look, Scott, not only was it was an emotional letdown game too. I mean, when you use up that much emotion, it was a lot of emotion. You see some of the video on social media from some of the players. You think they were alone. You just have that much less in the tank, and it's also a sandwich game where you've got A&M. Now we're not ready to say A&M's relevant just yet, but we got a big game this weekend. But how much better was that performance Saturday night than 2 years ago? It was the same situation. Walk-off win against Alabama, walk-off win against top 10 Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is not Alabama, but they were top 10, and it was a walk-off win as well.
Yeah, much better. I mean, they just were gasping to get through that game 2 years ago, and obviously Harold Perkins made all those great plays. And Arkansas people got to be seeing a ghost of number 40, a ghost wearing number 40, huh?
Whoever wears 40 up there just plays lights out.
But just much more impressive. And you saw it from the first drive. Where they took the ball and went down for that touchdown. Caden Durham made a great run, but they were getting, generally speaking, they were getting that push and opening those running lanes that you hadn't seen all year, and they ended up with 158 net yards rushing. Not an overwhelming number, but certainly much better than they've had before. And then conversely, a team that's averaging almost 200 yards a game, you limit them to 38 net yards rushing. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and you hear it so much. The SEC is a line of scrimmage league. That's what you have to do, and that's what they did Saturday night. And that's the mark of a team that is improving as the season is going on.
Is that sustainable? That's one of my big questions. The rushing attack it has improved. A&M has the number one rush defense in conference games only so far this year, and that's through half of the season now, so we got enough of a sample size. Is LSU's improvement in the rush game sustainable?
That's a very good question. I don't think Arkansas's rush defense was too shabby. They didn't have that number next to their name, but it's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, this is a game that's going to be a big emotional game for Texas A&M. This is going to be a game for them, like the Ole Miss game was for LSU, right, with a top 10 opponent coming in, and you're trying to prove yourself, and they're trying to stay atop the SEC. And the winner of this game is looking really good to make it to the SEC championship game. But yeah, it's going to be a little tougher. I think they're a little more susceptible to the pass. So I think LSU's going to probably lean on the pass a little more. But you gotta like what you see out of Caden Durham, and you gotta like what you see out of Josh Williams, and you're not too crazy what you've seen out of Caleb Jackson so far. And then Garrett Nussmeier ran the ball. Kelly was asked on the teleconference, Wilson Alexander, Nussmeier gave Kelly a thumbs up after he ran his own read. Like, yes, you finally got what we're asking you to do. And he said, I don't think he gives enough. Kelly said, I don't think Nuss gives himself enough credit for being able to run. Or has enough maybe confidence in himself to run. Obviously, it's not going to be anything like Jaden, but they need that element Saturday again at Texas A&M for sure.
Texas A&M has a lot. Their schedule has a lot of similarities to the results to what LSU's done. Both teams opened the season with a loss to a non-conference team. Both teams have a win at home against a top 10 team. both teams have let a couple of inferior opponents hang around a little bit too long, like A&M did probably with Mississippi State, and you can even say with Arkansas. LSU did that with UCLA and South Carolina. So there's a lot of similarities in what the results have been. With that being said, what kind of scenario is most likely to play out in your mind on Saturday night?
Yeah, no, the one very interesting game is that they only beat Arkansas by 21-17 on a neutral field in Arlington, and LSU pulled away from Arkansas. And it was a close game for more than a half, but LSU was able to pull away and be dominant. And then they're coming off a game where it's like, they didn't look super great against Mississippi State. They got through. And Mike Elko said after the game, Bill Elko, he played for LSU 40 years ago.
I remember Bill Elko.
He said that after the game, but you got to. And it's true. You got to get through the games and win. It's a good sign when you get to the games and win, and you don't play well instead of getting upset by Mississippi State. So I think it's going to be another close game, y'all. I think it's the point spread is indicative of that, and I think there's been more action on LSU. I've read is that what y'all are hearing. More action on LSU.
Respected money on LSU early. Yeah.
LSU hadn't won there in a long time, since 2016, but they certainly can. They certainly have their opportunities, and they really kind of went there and laid an egg 2 years ago. I don't think that's something that is going to escape their memory. That they want to give a better accounting of themselves. And it's gonna be interesting. I mean, obviously, these are not the two teams you expect to be the last two teams undefeated in SEC play going into the last Saturday in October. But here they are. They're both starting to make names for themselves. I think there'll probably be some nerves on both sides. I think that because this is like a little bit of uncharted territory for these teams. But I think LSU can win. I haven't really made up my mind who to pick yet, but I certainly know I'll be picking a close score, or however I go with it.
Scott, how have your expectations changed for this team over the last couple of weeks, both in how they're playing and in who they've got left? I mean, in November, they play Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma. 10 years ago, I don't know if the Minnesota Vikings could have won all three of those games. But this year, they don't look they're not as daunting. They're certainly winnable or losable games, but they're not, those juggernauts that they have been so many times in the past. So where are your expectations now for LSU, past this game on Saturday?
Well, certainly you can make the argument that this is the toughest game left in LSU's schedule, even with Alabama coming up on November 9th. They'll be favored in Florida. They'll certainly be favored at home over Vandy and Oklahoma, maybe even more so over Oklahoma than Vandy. You can say Vandy's offense is a little more dangerous, certainly at this point, than Oklahoma. We'll see
they got a quarterback, and Oklahoma doesn't.
Right. You can see where they go after firing fired the offensive coordinator this week. But it's important to remember, guys, with the expanded playoff, and Brian Kelly was asked this as well in the teleconference this morning about how more teams are now in it. And he said, you have twice as many teams, maybe 30 teams, maybe more, who can say at this point that they're still in contention. The loser of this game does not have to feel like their season is over in terms of making the SEC championship game or making the college football playoff. Obviously, the road gets a little harder because there's a bunch of teams in this mix in the SEC. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-loss teams, including Vandy, that are right behind LSU and Texas A&M. So you don't have to feel like it's over, but obviously the expectations have changed. This was we all said it. We all knew it, right? This is the defining 4-game stretch of LSU's season. Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, and Alabama, and they're 2-0. I mean, you kind of thought going into it, right? If they get a split, boy, that's really good. Now you're thinking they can certainly win 3 out of 4, and maybe they can take all 4. And if they can, boy, it's a tremendous, I'd say 180 degrees, but a huge difference from what you thought maybe going into that stretch.
My expectation right now is that this is a playoff team, win or lose on Saturday. If you win on Saturday, you got some slack in the rope to play with. If you lose,
the winner's got a game to play with.
Yeah, and if you lose, if you run out and you're 10-2 and you're left out of Atlanta, and I would imagine that there'd be a decent chance. It's a complicated tiebreaker, but a 10-2 LSU team is no lock for Atlanta if they lose to A&M. But you're still a playoff team. at that 10-2. So
tricky spot in Gainesville.
Yeah, none of them are gimmies, but they're all winnable games. So my expectation at this point is that LSU is a playoff team. Maybe I'm overstating, Scott, at this point, but that's my expectation right now.
At this point, yes. And look, I did something in my column on Monday. I looked at 10 of the national projections. At least 6 of them had LSU in the playoffs, and only one of them had them in a spot where they would be hosting a playoff game. Most of them had them going on the road, but they're in the mix. And people are starting to give them credence to say, yes, you have to say, and the national ranking shows it. Obviously, we haven't seen the first college football rankings yet. That won't come out until after this game. So if LSU can win, well, it'll be very interesting to see. I would be shocked if LSU is not in the top 12 or top 11 like you want to be in, because the group of 5 champion gets in when the first rankings come out on election night. Unbelievably.
They're right. They're right where their ranking is. They're right around 8.
Yeah,
right now.
Which means you may be playing on the road. You may be hosting a 9. You might. Have
you're dealing with some branding things. I mean, what was the difference? I mean, so Indiana hadn't played anybody, but did Texas until Saturday? I mean, where? I mean, so. And Indiana's getting better and better, and the toughest team they play, they beat 56-7. So I think Indiana's in right now. I say the odds, Scott, they are right on the 11 line, and they are co-favorites at -110 to make the playoff with Texas A&M on the 11 line. Keep in mind it's 11 teams because you're going to have a group of 5 teams, so you got to be in the top 11.
That's very important to remember, and also keep in mind, guys, this year the whole you just kind of said it, Jimmy. Texas, who they played until they played Georgia, right? At this point, everyone has some flaws. Everyone seems there's no uber dominant team out there. You could maybe make the case for Georgia, but they've looked kind of clunky and shaky at times. Oregon's undefeated, number 1, but they're not. And Penn State's undefeated, but you're not saying those are like. Oh man, those are like the 2 greatest teams in the country. They're going to play in the Big Ten title game. They're going to play again in Atlanta for the national championship. Who knows? I mean, so LSU is in that mix with a lot of other teams.
We gave the SEC baby the bottle for a while, but the first little thing, they want a kick in the playpen. The kick in the playpen when it's finally, you got to welcome them into the league on Saturday night.
Jimmy's
in Austin, huh?
Jimmy's birthday's coming up. I've got a burnt orange sweatshirt.
These son of man, I am worn out. I got my new team to hate. Trust me, it's just too much with this Texas.
Jimmy. In Austin, what were they saying going to the game? Man, we're carrying this league already. I mean, they really look how much they need us. All these other teams kind of stink, and we're having to carry this league like the old league. Yeah, that didn't hurt my feelings that Georgia won the game.
Last question, and I think I know what I would say. I'm curious, you guys. The winner of this game will be in first place by themselves in the SEC, but regardless of who wins, who's the favorite come next Monday at this time to win the league? Because I don't think
Georgia.
Exactly,
Georgia,
and I think Texas would be second, even though neither one of them would be on the lead. So
LSU might, Charlie, because they'll be guaranteed to get in. They'll be almost guaranteed
to win the
get
SEC.
In.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the others need help.
Yeah, but A&M would be 5-0 if they won this thing. So that's one more game than LSU.
But Texas would have the tiebreaker if they beat them. It is. Look, this is what you get when you get 100 teams in the conference. There's nothing defined at this point. I mean, we got 3 teams go undefeated in the ACC.
Right.
And they're undefeated, and they got a real shot.
They're
favored to go undefeated.
And somebody's going to be left out of the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
Of course, SMU's not really in the ACC. Oh, yeah, wait, hang on. They are. Scott,
how much was that Honey Badger play, huh, Whit Weeks? I mean, how identical?
Well, that play is, it was. And boy, that play to me, that could be where you said LSU became a college playoff contender. I mean, they were. You can point at the touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson to get him into overtime, and obviously that was hugely meaningful. But I don't know, that play maybe signals a different level that this defense is going to, and a different confidence level. And we're going to see if that carries over Saturday night.
Brad, we always appreciate the time. Safe travels to College Station. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thank you, my friends. Take care.
Don't forget our friends at Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, 343-1111. Both Charlie and I have used Dana's specialized team of attorneys at different reasons at different stages of our lives. And we have recommended to friends and associates of ours as well. So, hey, man, take advantage of that initial consultation. It's free. Just call 343-1111 or go to ocbrown.com and schedule it. As soon as you pull up the website, boom, you can schedule it. We're not trained attorneys. We don't know if our rights are being infringed upon or if we're entitled to more. You know, we're not Texas fans entitled to everything. We don't know. So that's why you got to use Dana's team of attorneys. 343-1111. Downtown Dana Brown at the law office of O.C. Brown, 343-1111.
Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
From east, north to south, but we're heading west. It's Wes Reynolds from VSiN.
And we return here at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Time to go out and talk to Wes Reynolds at VSiN.
All right, Wes Reynolds. Wes, how you doing, buddy? How about them Signettis, baby?
I know, man. You win 7 games in a row, and college game day comes for the first time, officially.
Yes.
Come Thursday night, but they came to the Buckeyes when the Buckeyes were number 1 in preseason, and that was a Thursday night game. So this time it's all about IU. It's all about Coach Corso coming back to the old stomping grounds from the 70s, 89 years old, might be his last visit to Bloomington, and what a better time to go to see Indiana 7-0.
Charlie, I was at LSU the first time they did the upper deck, the West Upper, and Lee Corso brought his Indiana Hoosiers into town.
77?
77, yeah, 77. He still has one of the best lines ever. They got drilled by Michigan. He says, "I told you I'd show you a Big Ten champion here." When they got drilled, but he is. But I have to, we joke, Wes, but I have to tell you, in previous weeks, it's been a cute little story. That's fine. This is a different level of respect that I have for Indiana after Saturday's game. I took Nebraska in the 7. Nebraska is built for one-score games. They were certainly ready to play. Both teams are coming off a bye, so it was an equal spot type of game in the schedule. And then you lose your starting quarterback, and I had so many games going, I couldn't even – I could not tell. And, they did not miss a beat that particular Saturday. Sure, you want your starting quarterback. There's no doubt about that. But there was excuse me. It had meant to be 56-7. Say what you want about Nebraska. They were 5-1, but Nebraska's problem, they just lose these games. But how many one-score games have they lost? This is a different level of respect I have Nebraska after Saturday.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And look, you were talking about, when Curtis Rourke, of course, went out and doesn't look like he's going to play Saturday. Should be back for Michigan State. All reports, at least early on, indicate that that's going to happen. But Taven Jackson, who was originally a Tennessee commit, Taven, by the way, is the younger brother of Trace Jackson Davis, who, of course, now plays for the Golden State Warriors, one of the best IU players probably over the last 20 years. And Taven's a kid from Greenwood, Indiana, transferred back, did not win the job with Brendan Sorsby, now at Cincinnati. Did he win the job this year? He stuck around. He stuck around Indiana and waited for an opportunity, which he has now, and Curtis Rourke was brought in for 1 year, and Curtis is going to be the starter. But I didn't think they missed a beat with Taven Jackson. Nebraska still had the first stringers in to start the second half. It was 28-7, so it wasn't an insurmountable deficit. And Taven Jackson looks posed in the pocket. He gives you a little bit more of a running aspect as well. Maybe a little better pure athlete than Curtis Rourke, even though Curtis Rourke is a better quarterback, I think, clearly. But, these guys just play together and they just believe. And Curt Cignetti is just so about business. And what I said, at the start of the season when I liked their season wins over was these guys that come in from James Madison. I know it's James Madison. I know it's the Sun Belt. And you're rising to the Big Ten. But there's something about a winning culture. And there's something about older players who know how to win, who have a chip on their shoulder and still something to prove, that are not satisfied. And that's the thing about Sid. He's never satisfied. And he always says that. And these guys, I think, really take that to heart. And they come in and like, no, we're coming in here to win. They came in with that attitude, and they have that right now.
A lot of people tried. Very few people. And, yeah, don't discount, coaches that with a resume. To me, that's the perfect resume. I mean, with James Madison or where did Kelly coach? And where was
he coached at Cincinnati and he coached at Central Michigan.
Before that, Central Valley.
Valley State.
Grand Valley State, Trestle, Youngstown. I mean, no, those teams are competing against teams with comparable resources. So, I mean, you're winning at those places. I would not.
Lance Leipold is another one at Wisconsin Whitewater, I believe it was.
Yes, and so, but I also think that it was important to bring over some of his players that maybe could, hey man, tell us what this goes. No, to get that buy-in factor. But I mean, that's a different level of respect, and I don't know what the hell is. The haves and the have-nots, that gap was supposed to widen more, but I think a couple of things. The lower resource or lower payroll teams in college football know their continuity in roster from one year, and they do not have a whole lot of NIL distractions as well. We'll see. Who you got in this week in college football, Wes?
Well, Charlie led into one of them when he mentioned Lance Leipold, and I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks, and they're still 10 out there. I think there's a little bit better. I took 11 against Kansas State. Kansas State, of course, riding high. They beat Colorado in that wild game a couple weeks ago, and then they trounced West Virginia. It wasn't even a game, but now you got Kansas coming in 2-5, and we know Kansas. They've been a little snake bit this year. They were without their offensive coordinator. Of course, Porter Mickey went to Penn State, so there was an adjustment from that. They lost the game to Illinois that they probably could have won. They lost the game at Arizona State that they probably could have won. There's been like 3 one-score games that these guys have been on the wrong side of the variant. So it could be 5-2, 4-3, but now you're 2-5 and you're up against it and you're playing your Sunflower State rival. So I took Kansas in the double digits here. I think that this is going to be a competitive game. I think that they're better in their record. They still got an experienced quarterback who can get explosive plays down the field. So KU made the card this week. Also, UCF made the card this week, and now they're the favorites. You still maybe go a little bit small money line, -115, -120, or something like that. UCF should have beaten Iowa State last week. They ran all over Iowa State, just didn't get it done at the end. And credit Rocco Becht and that team. They made the play when they have to, and now they get another team that's very similar this week to Iowa State, and that's BYU, who kind of are living on the right side of variance, right? They're living right. They're getting very fortunate, but they're winning all the close games. But if you watch that game with Oklahoma State on Friday night, Oklahoma State ran all over them. And the quarterback even got hurt. Terrence Angle, who was more the dual threat guy, they had to put Bowman back in, who lost his job due to some poor play. Drove him right down the field. BYU was very fortunate. I think UCF kind of back against the wall here, 3-4. Curry Brown at quarterback maybe is giving them life in the running game. So I think UCF will be done over BYU.
Yeah, the BYU, Oklahoma State, and Central Florida, Iowa State games, they were identical. I mean, the visiting team, the big underdog. Just let them get off the hook in that game.
And this is one of our classic situations. Unranked team favorite. It's a ranked team here.
They're -2 right now at the DraftKings outlet here in Baton Rouge at the Queen. So, Central Florida. You talk about the stinky line. They're stinky, and then there's Central Florida -2. It's screaming to take them. Who else, Wes?
Yeah, Michigan State. I like Sparty over Michigan getting 4.5. Had them against Iowa last week. That was the best performance for Michigan State, and I think it was because they had kind of like the modified about 16 days off because they had to play Oregon on a Friday. Did stay inside the number, then had a bye week, and then of course had Iowa coming in last week. Michigan State almost had 500 yards last week. And the kid, Aiden Styles, those too many interceptions probably. He's got 9 already this season, but he came Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, getting it done in the running game. They put almost 500 yards up like Iowa, who's a pretty solid defense. Maybe not the top 5 Phil Parker defense that they had in the past in Iowa City, but the fact that they were able to do that, now you get Michigan, and Michigan, look, I thought that they were going to be able, now that they put Jack Puddle in, who was a former Indiana quarterback and transferred into Michigan, that they were going to really make plays downfield in the passing game. Didn't really happen. And Michigan, look, this almost seems like a lost season for them, in my opinion. The fact that they're just not generating enough offense. The defense is still okay, but they got handled at Illinois. And that's a game that I thought that they were going to win. So Michigan State plus 4.5, I think certainly is a good look. And a couple, maybe North Texas plus 7.5 against Tulane. I had them against Memphis last week. Tulane's been beaten up on kind of the lower sisters in that American Athletic Conference. Now they got a team, and they're laying points on the road that might be able to go score for score with them. This North Texas team was able to do that with Memphis, and Memphis is pretty high-octane offense.
Oh, yeah, the new North Texas coach in year 2, I mean, it's flag football for them. I mean, they're going to score. They're going to go fast, and they're not going to do a whole lot. Incarnate Word, it's the same thing they were doing at Incarnate Word at a lower level. So we'll see about that. How about Michigan State's down to 3.5 now at the Queen, the DraftKings Sportsbook, and that is something that makes Michigan State a higher power rating on a neutral. That game's in Ann Arbor. This is Jonathan Smith's first year. I mean, he got that job late. It was a rough situation. I mean, no real contacts leaving Oregon State because he's jumping off the sinking ship, into Pac-2. But really? I mean, we knew there were going to be a drop-off, but this?
Michigan is not good. Oklahoma is not good. USC are not good. These monster brands.
Should they be better than Michigan State in year 1 and Jonathan Smith?
Yeah, but they're not.
My God. I mean, wow. Who we got in the NFL this week, Wes?
Well, we'll go to a Thursday night game. I took the Rams plus 3, and I know there have been some reports about, that Cooper Kupp is on the trade block and all of that, but it's really more of a play against Minnesota because Minnesota was riding high. They had the lead late against Detroit and Dan Campbell. They saw some way forward in a game that it looked like Minnesota was going to win. So short week and then a travel. I think this is a horrible spot for Minnesota. So it's not that I'm really in love with the Rams, who have had a lot of problems, especially with injuries. Both their main receivers out, the offensive line banged up, but that's commonplace really around the league. So I do like the Rams plus 3. I'm going to go smaller with a little bit of the injury consideration. Then a couple others I did play. I'm going against the Chiefs again, and I'm probably going to get beat again, but I'm going to take the Raiders plus 10. I know that that's inflated because the Raiders, I guess, talked some trash in the summer, and Mahomes was like, it'll get handled when it gets handled, but these aren't the good spots for Mahomes historically, like when they're really huge favorites. He doesn't really cover at a very high rate, and the Raiders kind of back against the wall here, 2-5. Devontae Adams is now gone, so they've got to gather themselves. So I thought 10 for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have been living a little right this year in terms of some injury luck with some other teams being banged up. Now, credit, they beat San Francisco. Brock Purdy produced 3 interceptions and had a bad game. But I think 10 is 5 for the Chiefs. I like the Gators.
All right, follow Wes Reynolds on Twitter at Wes Reynolds 1 each and every week on VSiN throughout the week as well. Wes, good luck to you, man, and go ahead, little game day, baby. Get up 6 a.m. Enjoy the festivities, man.
I will be watching every second of it before our Saturday.
Hey, you deserve it, man. You deserve it. Good job. Enjoy. We'll talk to you next week.
You bet, guys. Thank you.
Live at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street, Mid-City. Live at lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Looking for a pregame party and a good cause on Saturday at Radio Bar, not terribly far from where we're on Government Street. The Bike MS Bash to benefit the MS Society here. in Baton Rouge. With your donation, you get free pastelaia and keg beer. They're going to have You also get raffle tickets with your $30 donation at the door. Josh Smith has autographed some stuff. Tyrann Matthew has autographed some Saints gear. They're going to be giving away a really, really nice bike, as well as a bunch of other items at halftime. Pre-game party starts at 3 o'clock, and that's when the food and the drinks are ready to go. The raffle and the auction are at halftime of LSU and Texas A&M. That's this Saturday at Radio Bar for the MS Society here in Baton Rouge.
Got that going on, and then this Friday night as well. We got our friends over at Red Cake and Mestizo Restaurant doing the Metalachi Monster Mashup. That's right. This Friday at the Manship's Hartley-based studio, downtown Baton Rouge. Man, the best venue for live music. So, Metalachi, the world's first and only heavy metal mariachi band, hailing from L.A. Their unique fusion of metal and mariachi music. Going to rattle your bones and rock the Manship to its core. Following the Metalachi performance, celebration will continue in the Manship with a special screening of the cult classic film Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Bring your rice, Charlie, to throw at the wedding in the movie. General admission and VIP tickets. VIP tickets allow you to get Mestizo will be doing different hors d'oeuvres throughout the evening over there as well. So great deal going on this Friday night at the Manship Theater. For tickets, go to manshiptheater.com. That's manshiptheater.com.
I can bring rice. I know a rice guy. Several of them.
That's right.
As a matter of fact.
Shoot. but man, when we used to go on Friday nights, into the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and we used to go a lot, man. It was fun. There's always a hoot. Man, that free rice, that'd have been a big deal. That'd have been great.
That was a week's worth of meals in college. Kind of a newsy day, NFL and college football. In addition to Devin White signing with the Texans, the Chiefs made a deal for DeAndre Hopkins, see if he can recapture a little bit. The Chiefs are in bad need of a receiver. Jameis Winston going to start for the Browns on Sunday. Ken Dorsey is now going to call the plays, so they're changing play callers as well as quarterbacks. And out of Columbia, Missouri, leading rusher for the Tigers, Nate Noel, is out for this game against Alabama on Saturday. He's their leading rusher, averaging right at 6 yards a carry, over 500 yards on the season. He is out for this game at Alabama. And Alabama's players are saying this week they're going to be more focused, Jimmy. They're going to really be dialed in on things like getting to practice on time. Do you need to focus to be to practice on time?
Of course not. And just to be that clueless where you're publicizing a soundbite that you think it's a commitment, an extra commitment to show up on meetings at time, nothing screams that the substitute teacher is in more than that. And, some people will overdo it as far, the sideline behavior. I got a big problem with, all the shenanigans outside of the whistles, especially, and LSU to me even, it's a little bit too much chirping, too much being a badass after the whistle. Man, it's football. You can be this baddest son of a gun you want between the whistles. That's cowardice after. I mean, give me a break. It is football. You can knock somebody's head off between the whistles. But it's over after the whistle. And direct any celebration to yourself anyway. But you see a lot of lack of discipline, whether it is inconsistency on performance from play to play, over celebration, doing routine things that are sort of distracting and sort of a little bit too much celebrating on the sidelines or after plays or from play to play. There's a lot of lack of discipline, and it lends itself to my son's a student over there, and I asked him, what is going on? I said, man, they lack discipline in a big way, and nobody's going to fill in for Saban, and this guy's really good, but not in this spot at this time. And it's just too much for him. And even some of the oblivious sort of tone comments that he really didn't know what kind of pressure he was getting into, have come to fruition because there are too many things, and this is screaming. Man, the substitute teacher is in. I mean, we just go run wild over this son of a gun.
The first thing that came to my mind is, have they been going to practice late? Have they been going to meetings late?
They're telling you they are.
Yeah. If there's one thing I know about...
What do you mean? That's no question. They're telling you they are.
Yeah, if there's one thing I know about football at this level, it's that you don't show up late, man. You don't show up late for nothing. I mean, the Lombardi time was everything. You got to be 15 minutes. You don't show up late for meetings and practice. That is the absolute biggest amount of disrespect for your coach if you show up late for practice or late for a meeting. And that's usually something that is policed inside the team. We're like, man, you ain't coming late, dog. Come on. If I got to go pick you up or whatever. Dixon's told a story before about how Les used to have that workout right before their break on the bye week. And if anybody showed up late, they had a later practice. So they all made sure, hey, man, you better be your ass to practice because I don't want to stay late today. But you don't show up late.
Say with the walk-ons, you got 100. Let's just say 100 on your team. What about the other, say a handful showing up late? What do the 95 others think that's fair?
No, they don't.
Do they want those guys to be there late?
That's what, okay. This is inter-team policing of these type of issues. Like, man, you ain't messing me up.
Bebe Ogeron was, and I love listening to him talk and tell his stories of the U. Some of the best off-air stories. Unbelievable stories back in that. And Jimmy Johnson, he said that playing time was like gold. And he said, you can show up late, you don't play. Kirby Smart. Well, he's done. I heard George. He's done everything about them driving 100 miles per hour, killing people, and things like that. You sit. You don't sit one game. No, you sit. And if guy leaves your program because he's showing up late, see ya. Now if say Harold Perkins or whatever Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow ain't showing up late. And this is why, it's like, and it's a different league now. Who's the Sixers' most talented player?
Joel Embiid.
When your most talented player is the least committed, how's that set a precedent for everybody else?
Right.
When your best player like Joe Burrow is going above and beyond, man, that gives your team a chance.
He used to say that about Jerry Rice. He was the hardest worker on the team.
And he's the most talented guy on the team.
He was the best ever.
And the players know who the best. Mm-hmm. But man, just sit them. And if they leave, they leave. But, everybody's like, it's tough to do. No, man, Jimmy Johnson, and look, those cats, that playing time was like gold. And if he took it away, they had a way of getting back in shape.
That Vanderbilt game when Malachi Moore kicked the football and pitched a fit. That's your captain, man. That's your captain.
And Michael Irvin was this and that, and we didn't know how to take him, and he was leading the charge, all the flamboyance from Miami and stuff like that. But Michael Irvin was in practices early. Yeah. And he was a voice also to them other guys as well.
Show up and handle your business for sure.
Yeah.
Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
And Max showed up today wearing his New Orleans Pelicans gear. The Pels start the season tonight at the Blender against the Bulls. They're 5.5-point favorite. All right, Zion Williamson, DeJounte Murray, both of them game-time decisions. Max, what do we know?
We know at practice today, DeJounte Murray did return. He was dealing with a personal matter, so he's back in New Orleans. He was at shoot-around today. Zion was not there. We'll still see. He's dealing with an illness, so he'll be a game-time decision tonight.
No Trey Murphy. He signed a new contract earlier this week. He is out with a hamstring, going to miss the first part of the season. We'll see exactly how much that is. Bulls, again, they're 5.5. Pelicans are 5.5-point favorite. Win total for the season is 49. Is that what we're saying?
I think that's. Let me check on that again. But it's a very tough division. Maybe second hardest out there. Most competitive, I would say, to the Pacific Division with the Suns, the Kings, the Warriors, the Lakers. Very competitive. Looking at the Pelicans' win total here, they will be a fast-paced team. I did see the total tonight is 226.5. So that's something to maybe note with their small roster. 46.5 is their win total.
46.5. The Pelicans under David Griffin have gone from in the 4 years. Okay, 31 wins, 36 wins, 42 wins, 49 wins. Okay. Last season, it tied for the second most in the history of the franchise. They're trying to make the playoffs in back-to-back years for the third time since moving to New Orleans. Feels like one of those years where, they're going to make a step, okay? Held on to Brandon Ingram, didn't make that move. Make the move for DeJounte Murray, fill that role at point guard. Are they going to be able to play as small as they are? They're going to run. They're going to play at a pace. They score a bunch of points. Their rim protectors are woefully inexperienced. That's a concern for them. But they should be fun to watch. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of length on this team on the perimeter. There's some shooting. Hawkins had a really good camp, so we'll see. How enthused are you?
I like it. We'll see. I don't know if Brandon Ingram's going to make it the whole season as a Pelican. I kind of hope so, but we'll see how this shapes up.
Depends greatly on what happens between now and the All-Star break, but the trade deadline, I should say. Tomorrow we are Ed Jolie Pearl. Thanks to the folks here, Ed Roca for being our host today, for Max, for Jimmy. Jordan back in the studio. I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.